say I pray for all them politicians. I want to beg the master to brighten their vision. Give them the inspiration to look beyond the horizon. Too long we living in bitterness and hate. Now the time is right for us to renew our faith. I sick and tired.
Good morning to your wonderful listeners of Real FM 91.9, 91.5. And you can also find us on www.therefmgrenada.com. It is that community radio station. It is that radio station within the northern part, the most northern part of the Tri-Island State. And we touch base with our community. And also, regardless of where you are, regionally, internationally, or whichever part locally you can also tune in. And you also have that privilege to tune in to stay logged on via Facebook and YouTube. And that's only through Real FM. It is that radio station that allows you to connect and to know what's happening around you. At this time on a Wednesday morning, wonderful Wednesday morning, yes? When you hear the voice of a Jamu with the song Pray for a Nation, you know it is the conversation with the RGPF out of the Eastern Division. And whenever we have that program, we seek to inform you, our listeners, whether through reminders or first-time news, information disseminated to you so that you can make better decision. You can better inform your friends and family members and your loved ones as to making good decision. I am none other than Jessel Grant, Sergeant of Police attached to the Community Relations Department within the Eastern Division. I trust that this morning's conversation would inspire you one way or the other. To you, all of my listeners that are viewing and also listening, I say good morning to each and every one of you. And I try not to bring myself at that spot to start calling out listeners. But wherever you are, I feel delighted. You know, when I go through the streets and I go through the various communities and persons say, Officer Grant, or you're the officer on Real FM. You know, I look forward to your program on a Wednesday morning. I am so delighted to gain those information. I am so, so happy. One young lady said to me about 2 weeks back, she said, I listened to your program and I had a conversation with 2 other individuals, one being a police officer and another member. And the information was not in line with what you were saying. So I had to tell them, no. Let's go and look at it. Let's listen it. And we're happy that Real FM gives us that opportunity whereby persons can go back and listen or look at the program. Now, for the last 2 weeks, I've been doing the program all alone, meaning that I had no guests with me, and that's a bit intentional. And this morning would be the same, because I tried to create a episode as to the topics I wanted to share with you and the reminders that I wanted to give you. And right after Easter, the first weekend, that would have been the 23rd of April, I dealt with antisocial behavior. What are my responsibility as a parent and or guardian? Then last week, I looked at conflict resolution. And I remember looking at what is a conflict when we have disagreement or persons are on different sides, share different ideas and opinion about a particular subject or thing. And we look at some of the symptoms, some of the feelings, how you feel when you are angry, what are the consequences when you're in a conflict and it's not properly resolved, right? So we looked at all of that and more. And this morning, I want to take that two-pass topic and tie it into the whole concept of domestic violence. Yes. And I'm hearing you say domestic violence again, but mind you, when we look at the stats that are coming in terms of the reports that are being made within our jurisdiction and across the board, domestic violence remains a challenge for us. Now, the question on the table is it that there are more incidents of domestic violence occurring? Or is it that because people are educated in regards to domestic violence, it's understanding as to what it is that the reports are coming in? So our statistics for last week would have shown for the week in total, we had, and that's just Grenville Police Station, a total of 26 domestic violence matters being reported. And let us just tease our mind. What about those that was committed and not reported? And there are instances where persons would make report and they do not share or say that they are related to the perpetrator or the accused person whom they are complaining on. So I just give you that bit of statistics to enlighten you as to why it is important that every now and again we dip back into the whole aspect of domestic violence. We also have to look at the whole aspect of sexual offenses and its related consequences or challenges that it poses for the victims. It's a little while now we have not touched that topic, and it will be coming up pretty soon in our programs ahead. But before we go further into the conversation and go into the meat of today's topic, I just want to remind you, listeners, but before a reminder, let me say thank you, and a big thank you to all of you who had supported us one way or the other in regards to our breakfast sale last Friday at the Grenville Police Station yard or compound. We are very much grateful and we are appreciative for your support in whatever way or form you had contributed. On the note of reminders, I'd like to remind and inform you that come May 31st, it's the last Saturday of May 2025, the Eastern Division will be hosting its second boat cruise. Come sail with us on board the Embassy Compare with Us Edition 2. Tickets are available at the Grenville Police Station. You can call 405-3153 and ask for any of the fundraising committee members. You can ask for Ms. Thomas. You can ask for the secretary. You can ask for even myself. You can contact Hermitage Police Station, and if you're within the Hermitage Policing District, and speak with Ms. Burke Thomas, she will be able to assist you in obtaining a ticket. You also, if you're coming from the Birch Grove area, you can contact the Birch Grove Police Station and speak with WPC Banfield, and she will be able to help you there. And out of St. David's, you have WPC Chichester, who can also assist you and direct you as to how you can obtain your ticket. And all of that is in aid of raising funds for the Eastern Division in regards to our annual award ceremony, and also that of we as a division trying to be self-sufficient in that when the situation, or if a situation arises and one of our colleagues needs some form of support, that we are able to do so and give them the necessary support or assistance as the need may be. So that's just some of the announcements. I also want to remind you, if you see something, hear something, know something, we always ask, urge, and beg of you to say something, regardless of the situation. You know, I say to persons daily that a situation is ongoing and the police is involved. You have a voice, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Getting involved or getting on in the face of the officer or the situation, making use of obscene language, making use of threatening or insulting language, or even gestures or gesticulation that makes the officer's job difficult to be for the officer to accomplish his task or job can warrant to an offense. So I give that preamble against the backdrop to say to our listeners that when a situation is occurring, if you can't give assistance, or if you ask the police to render assistance and he or she object to it, you can still have a chance to say your side of the story or to seek some form of redress by simply coming into the station or CRD or contacting a police station and reveal or disclose what you would have observed, heard, or seen, right? So don't think as a community member that you cannot, because it's a police involved, you cannot say what you witness. Yes, you can. All we are asking is for honesty, because it's the same thing we are admonishing you to do when it is civilian and civilian. We are not above the law as officers, and I say that against the backdrop that if you notice something is happening, so the police is trying to arrest a person, if you are not going to help the officer in executing that arrest or to causing the person who he wants to arrest to comply, just stand out. If at the end of the situation, if you think that the police did not handle it properly or professionally, you can get your chance to give your side of it, as opposed to going and obstructing the officer in his or her duty. I just thought it was wise that I raised that this morning, and I'm going to leave it just at that, just as reminders or even guidelines for you, our community members. Because listeners, like it or not, we cannot work without you all. Like it or not, community cannot run without law enforcement. We have to partner together. We must work together. And obviously, if we want to talk about reducing the fear of crime, if we want to talk about fighting crime, if we want to talk about solving crime, and overall, if we are talking about crime prevention, yes, you as listeners, you as the community members, you as the general public have to work with the police. And of course, the police must work with you. So all I'm saying, with all that is happening, I know there are some cold shoulders. I know there are persons hurting as I speak, all because of situation between the police and the community and the police. And mind you, whenever there is an unrest between the community and the police, the force is not at ease. We do not like it because we are stakeholders together. We are in that business. So it's just like a supermarket depending on a warehouse to bring in the goods so that they can sell to their to the customers. Just so you, the community, you, the general public, are our stakeholders, and we are depending on you. Just the same, you are depending on us. Let us put aside all of the politics, and politics here does not mean government or party. I'm talking about all the little gimmicks between the little pull and tug here and there, who say, she say, them say. Let us put that aside and let us look for Grenada and building a better Grenada. Let us be man and woman enough that where we were wrong, we are able to stand up and say, yes, I did X and I apologize, and how can we move forward? We don't just encourage our children to do it at home, but we also, as grown citizens, mature citizens, need to do it. And that takes me right into the topic this morning of domestic violence. Yeah, even within the household, within spouse, man and woman, husband and wife, mother and father, even within them, you have to find that inner drive to say, I'm sorry. Yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I falter here. I did not hold up to my end or side of the bargain. And so is it with children to parents and parents to children, siblings, brothers to brothers, sisters to sisters, and brother and sister, vice versa, aunts and uncles. We have to be able to reach at that place where we are able to apologize. And when we are able to do that, going back on last week's program where we looked at conflict resolution, then if we are able to resolve our conflicts, because bearing in mind that a conflict is a disagreement where two opposing sides or two different sides share different opinion about a particular idea or issue, right? So if we are able within the household or within our family structure to realize that and to resolve our conflicts or resolve our issues, then there will be no domestic violence. Because when we realize that a problem come about, we will find ways to solve it before it escalates. So I know that we had looked at the different types of domestic violence. But listeners, hear what? We still are faced with situations where persons are experiencing domestic violence and they don't know that they are victims of domestic violence. They still don't know. So individuals are coming into the office. Individuals are meeting officers, including myself, and having a conversation. Officer, this is happening at my home. This is what I am going through. And when you say to them, well, you're experiencing domestic violence, you are a perpetrator or abuser. Officer, what you talking about? Me, I don't abuse nobody. Okay, so then the languages, it fall under verbal abuse. The obscenes, the threats, the insulting language. And we all know what we say to each other. It is a form of abuse. Then you have the financial and psychological. Now, we having lately lots of reports coming in where the female is complaining of the males taking their cell phones and go with it. It's stealing because it's not yours. Taken away without the consent of the owner. It is stealing. And yes, it is abuse. We also have issues of damage to property where a lot of the male partners are taking their female counterpart or the female partner cell phone and damaging it. Why? Because he comes home and he see her on the cell phone, or he understands she chats with John B. and he's not pleased about it. So he damages her phone. Some of them, when they have issues, instead of they find ways to resolve it, I buy a piece of clothes for you, I take it and I cut it up. I give you a pair of shoes, I take one grain and I leave with the other side because I know you can't go nowhere with one grain of shoe or one side of shoe. Yeah. So these are some of the reports that are coming in. And the children are witnessing it. Then, of course, the abuse, the hitting, the slapping. Gentle people, these are not ways to resolve issues. We have an increase with females complaining that their male partner has been using cutlasses on them, planassing them, and coming along with the threats as to what I would do to you, what you continue, or if I catch you, or if Tom wasn't there, I would have. And they use all the insulting and threatening language. Then we have parents to children. Parents using all sorts of insulting and obscene, threatening languages to the children. Now, in my days growing up, I don't know about telling my mom, I'll call police for you. That was not a language or a phrase that I knew. But now it's happening. Why? Technology has increased. And added to that, we are teaching the children. At school, various entities are going into the school and educating them on domestic violence, educating them as to the issues. So we are at that stage where we must break the cycle of domestic violence. Now, over the years, domestic violence has been largely perpetrated or committed against females. But may I hasten to say to you this morning, listeners, that our females are also committing domestic violence. Our females are also perpetrators. They are also abusers. They are also committing domestic violence. And when we speak to the whole aspect of domestic violence, and yes, we understand that there is threatening, insulting, all of that falls under verbal. Then you have the physical, you have the psychological, you have the emotional, and then you have financial. There are some females in our day and age that is working, and when she can't determine how she spends her money because her male counterpart will take it away from her. Now, listeners, let us also remember that in the 2010 revised edition, which also covers Laws of Grenada, which also covers the Domestic Violence Act, it is there and it seeks to protect and empower the vulnerable. And vulnerable here does not only speak to women and children. Vulnerable does not only speaks to the elderly. Vulnerable also covers males. But the sad reality is our male counterpart seldom uses the Domestic Violence Act. Our male partners, our male folks, still under the cliche and the preset that when they go into the station to make a complaint of domestic violence, that the officer is going to laugh. But I have seen since in 2014, under the magisterial district and directive of then magistrate Jerry Seals, where males has been granted protection orders. And I've even seen under our present magisterial district in Grenville, where males, and even that of St. David's, as present as 2024, 2025, where males have been granted, where the court grant males, the man in the relationship, protection order. So I say that to let you know, listeners, regardless to who you are, because the Domestic Violence Act speaks to a person. It did not speak to a woman or a girl or female. The law has been revised and it has since been open to a person. So whoever is experiencing situations of domestic abuse, and let me also ask you, say to you, because you may ask, what is domestic abuse and whether or not that's an offense? Domestic violence in and of itself is not an offense, but under the whole branch of domestic violence. There are criminal aspect and there is the civil aspect. So, for example, you can be a victim of domestic violence and you did not come to the police, but you can get justice by applying for a protection order. You go to the court, you get the affidavit form, you fill it up as directed, you get your $2.50 stamps, you go to the JP or a notary public and you have it signed in their presence. You take it back to the court. The magistrate can do or take certain action. 1, the magistrate can grant that order interim ex parte. It simple means that the person or the respondent or the perpetrator has no knowledge that an order has been done against him or her. So when the officer or the court bailiff serve that document, then they have knowledge in most situations. When you get that document, it says to you, in most instances, that you ought to leave the residence. There are other instructions based on what is requested by the victim or the applicant. But it would also tell you of a date and time and at which court you need to appear to tell your side of the story. The magistrate, upon receiving that application from the victim, can also set a date. Him or her don't have to grant an order at that stage, but they can set a date for the parties to come before him or her at that court to answer the charge or to make a response to the affidavit where the applicant or the victim has seek protection. So that's 2 actions the magistrate can take thus far. And when the parties go to court, the magistrate would hear and make a deliberation. Of course, as the respondent, you could have a lawyer represent you. That's your rights. You could do that. And that's the civil aspect of the Domestic Violence Act for matters going before the court. So you can apply for a protection order without the police involvement. And then also under Domestic Violence Act, you also have the whole aspect of all of the incidents that occur. So whether it's the hitting, the pushing, the language offense, under financial you have stealing, you have sexual, and I said it before, and by now I think the whole of the nation understand that it's in law, where husbands could rape their wives and their wives could rape their husbands. So these activities, if and when committed within the relationship of the persons that I stated earlier, yes, it's domestic violence, and him or her can come to the police and make a report. The report can be made for future reference where you just want to inform the police that this has been happening. It can also be made where you request a warning against the perpetrator or the abuser. It can also be made where you want court action. And like it or not, listeners, anybody can make a report of domestic violence and have the police responding. Any person who witnesses, and I'm talking now about a passerby, so another person within the household or the family yard that has knowledge that act of domestic violence is being perpetrated or committed, can make a report. And of course, when that happens, the police have not a choice to respond. They ought to respond, and that's the law. So what I'll do at this time, listeners, I will take a brief break with our theme song, Ajamu, Pray for Our Nation. And when we come back, we would continue for the next 20 minutes or so in regards to the conversation and looking at domestic violence. Just a summation as we recap on the last two topics, conflict resolution and some of the antisocial behavior that take place within our society. But of course, before I take the break, I need to let you know, listeners, that the Eastern Division of the Royal Grenada Police Force will be hosting its second boat cruise. Come party with us on board the Embassy, May 31st, 2025, 7 p.m. Boarding, and you intend to sail at 8. Let's take that break, and we'll be right back with the conversation with the RGPF.
A prayer for me country. But now, pray for me country. Oh, I say a prayer. Living conditions sometimes is so unbearable. It's very hard for the youths to stay out of trouble. Some of them went to school and they graduate with their degree, but they still cannot find nothing to do in this country. That's bad. I'm sure you know that this whole saying is true. The devil always has plenty work for those who idle. So they turn to drug, alcohol and recklessness, and creating terror for those who make progress. So before another one die, Father, hear my cry. Hey! Father, I pray for the children. Please don't let the devil control them. Oh, Father. Oh, Father. I pray for the misguided youth man walking wrong with dangerous weapon. Oh, Father. Oh, Father. I pray for common sense. I pray for tranquility. I pray for intelligence and a whole lot of peace in my country. Father, I pray for the woman who gave herself to prostitution.
Yes, listeners, and he will listen to us and he would grant as we request. Let us continue to pray for those that is idle-handed. You know, within our society, of course, we got lots of those energy. And as such, we just have to ask the Almighty for His intervention and for His will to be done, and that we would continue to make and keep our flag, or the flag of Grenada, flying high. And as such, we would continue to be proud of Grenada because we are looking at reducing the fear of crime and also that of the commission. We are also looking at overhead, improving the prevention of crime. Listeners, it is sad. It is sad that today being the 7th of May, we've just crossed the first quarter and we already have 6 homicides. It is sad. Let us consciously, as a country, as one people, ever conscious of God, regardless to our professional status, regardless to the labeling that we associate with, let us try and keep 6 as the maximum and no more for 2025. I know it's a had demand. And why it is? Because lots of us have not learned. We have not learned. We have not comprehend and understand the whole issue of conflict resolution. How do we resolve conflict without being violent, without the use of a weapon? How do we? How do we speak to and influence others? But I want us to look back on the whole issue that says that we are role models and our young people ought to follow us. And we would no longer say, do as I say, not as I do. But let our action so speak and demonstrate us. So if I take that stand and every other person that is listening this morning take that stand, of course. So it is the conversation with the RGPF, and this morning's topic is the whole aspect of domestic violence. And I just want us to take the next few minutes to look at how some of the abuse are being committed. So I speak about the physical, and we know it's a pushing, the fighting, the slapping, the planners, the hitting, all of that. And so that is the actions that take place. But within the law, it says assault causing harm, wounding, grievous harm, dangerous harm, maiming, and the ultimate homicide, death, right? And I beat up already and expounded on the verbal aspect of it. Verbal, as we know, is the language, the obscene, the threatening, and the likes, right? But we have the sexual abuse, and yes, we still have the complaints coming in where females are saying that they said no to their partners in regards to sexual intercourse, and it results in physical, and in some cases the partner forces them to have sex with them, and it is a violation of the person's integrity, right? So in a relationship, either party has the rights or the responsibility of saying no, right? The other one, this one, the police can't charge for it, but it do happen, and that is the emotional abuse, also psychological, and it simply means the degrading or humiliating conduct by the abuser to the applicant or to the victim, right? So that is where a lot of times they play on by doing certain things, with the psyche or the emotions of the person. In some instances, psychological and emotional abuse can come about through the use of the language offenses. So you may not use threatening language. You may not use insulting or obscene language, but some of the things that you would say to the person humiliates them. It makes them feel degraded, right? You say things to put them in that state of fear or unrest, which affects the way in which they go about. And then under the financial, you also have the economic. And as I said earlier, a lot of times it happens where the abuser, and I don't want to say the male, because it's not only the man that does it. There are females who do just the same as the male. It's just that it is largely done, or the men do the greater amount in terms of the reports or the complaints that comes in. But we are fully aware as the professionals that females do commit those types of abuse to their spouse or dependents also. And I spoke earlier on as to damage to property and stealing, but one that is creeping itself in is that of the digital abuse. Yeah, that's where persons, male as well as female, uses technology and the social media to either bully the partner or spouse. You have it against siblings, harass or stalk them, so you track their phones or the gadget, and you know where they are. You know how to find them. So even if they tell you, I'm going to, they live St. Patrick's and they say they're going to St. George's, but they only give you that as an alibi. But because you bug their phone or the device, you know the exact location. And your only reason for wanting their location is to cause some form of abuse to them. So that's some of it. You also have the whole aspect under the digital abuse, where persons uses social media to post photos and videos and other postings, texts and so forth of their partner or family members. And we know for a fact that violation of one's privacy through the use of the digital or technology is a criminal offense. So it's not just happening within the community with persons who is upset or there is a conflict between party A and party B. It is also happening within the household, where persons uses those means to violate the other party or the partner. And it most times happen when the individuals are upset with each other, or there is some form of dispute between the parties. Because know how you say to me that we are good friends, we are on terms, things are good, and you will post something on me, be it a text, a video, or a photo, to make me unhappy. So yes, we know that only when there is dispute between parties, those things happen. And it is basically used to manipulate the other person, to have the other person in that awkward position, to put down that person's status, right? And we are saying that it is an offense, and those who are doing it should cease and desist from same. You should stop. Another set of issues that we realize coming in is that persons would say that I was under the influence of alcohol. Listeners, that's no longer an excuse. It's no longer an excuse. You're not going to get through with that. So I want to urge you that the consumption of alcohol and other substance is not an excuse for the commission of a crime or abuse under the Domestic Violence Act. But of course, when you make a complaint, the police would ask, or even the social arm would ask, whether or not there was weapon involved, whether or not the perpetrator had used or consumed any substance or alcohol. It is for the database record and also to assist the policymakers in planning and preparing programs to help in situations like these. I must say that not every time someone applies for a protection order, it is granted. Because remember, the application of a protection order must go through a trial, and based on the information or the evidence provided, the magistrate would make that decision or determination as to whether or not a protection order is so needed. And while a protection order has a lifespan of 3 years, the magistrate will determine whether or not he or she grants the entire 3 years or less. And there have been situations that I know of where the magistrate grants less than 3 years. And to make a decision for him or her, as the magistrate, to make such a decision, it will be determined by the evidence that has been produced. So when the police receives information of a domestic violence situation, we are advised and we instruct our officers to respond sensitively to reports of domestic violence. We also encourage that every incident of domestic violence be reported. And of course, when we respond, we must be professional, not just only to our response, but also that of our investigation, also when we're investigating. And it is not just to the investigators and the first responders, but also in the prosecuting of those matters. And whenever there are incidents of domestic violence, we oftentimes, it's not always, but most cases than not, contact our social arm. So be it the Ministry of Social Development, be it Child Protection Authority, be it the Juvenile Justice, which are the probation officers, and also that of the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. We do make contact with them to inform them as to the necessary intervention. Another entity that we also communicate with is that of the school attendant officer. Most time, or in the past, they were called the truancy officer. So they are now under the heading of the school attendant officer. We also make communication with them and inform them of situations of domestic abuse. Now, mind you, it's not all situations we have to get all these entities involved. So if you respond to an issue of domestic violence and child or children are involved, children not going to school, you call the various entity to give that supporting assistance or intervention. Listeners, I want to admonish you that domestic violence, just like tourism, is everybody's business. And if we do not treat or deal with domestic violence properly, our crime rate can increase significantly. Not just homicides, but our harm offenses can increase, and it puts a strain on our financial standing within society. It puts a burden. So on this note, the program has come to an end, where we've looked at this morning the whole aspect of domestic violence. And for the past 2 weeks, we had looked at last week conflict resolution, and the week before antisocial behavior, parent and guardian responsibility. I want to urge you listeners that you continue to be good stewards of our country. After all, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique belongs to all of us, and we do have our part to play regardless to our status. If you know of any situation of abuse, whether to our elderly, our children, or domestic, we ask you to contact the nearest police station or call 911, whether you have credit or not, and report it. Thank you for sticking and stay to Real FM and also The Conversation with the RGPF. Of course, if you see something, know something, hear something, we urge you to say something. And don't forget, Saturday, 31st May 2025, Eastern Division C. Come sail with us on board the Embassy. You can get tickets at the Grenville Police Station, 405-3153. You can ask for the Secretary, Miss Simon, or Miss Thomas, or ASP Gill at the Grenville Police Station, and you are certain to get so. Oh, you also have Miss Augustine at the CID Department, Grenville Police Station. Feel free to come on out and socialize with us. This has been your program. I had been Sergeant Grant. Thank you, and we'll be back next Wednesday with another program, The Conversation with the RGPF.
Entertaining and first. Every hour on the hour.
Welcome to the latest update of news as produced by Triple N. The details when we return.
Classic Furniture. Our items are made from the best local wood available.